And in New York City, a grand jury has indicted 24-year-old veteran Daniel Penny on second-degree manslaughter charges. That's in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely.
All right, that case getting a whole lot of attention nationwide now. Several GOP candidates, by the way, already saying that they will pardon Penny if he does end up getting convicted.
Joining us now for more is former prosecutor and constitutional law attorney Ameer Benno. Ameer, good morning. I want to get your reaction to the grand jury's decision. I mean, does anything actually happen now? I know Rob was saying that it's actually not that hard to get indicted on something.
Well, good morning, guys. It's not that hard to get indicted. The expression is you can indict a ham sandwich. But yeah, at this point, now the case sort of hurdles towards a trial, and there'll either be a plea deal or it'll go to trial and there'll be a conviction or an acquittal. The question that I have, and I couldn't see any reporting on it that suggested that he did this, is whether or not Penny testified in the grand jury. In order to really assert your defense in this case, there's no question of the fact that Penny or Neely rather was died. The question is whether Penny is criminally responsible for it. And that turns on really whether he was justified. And in order to establish justification, he has to tell his side of the story to the jury. And if he didn't do that to the grand jury, then it's no surprise that they indicted him. But he'll ultimately have to do that to win.
He didn't testify. I know and it's unusual. So his lawyers basically telegraphed to the grand jury that, yes, we'd like to have our client, Daniel Penny, testify before you decide to indict, because we know that once it gets to a grand jury, it's most likely going to go to charges after that in an indictment. He didn't end up doing that. Ameer, you're a prosecutor in New York City. I'm wondering what you make of the timing. So this all happened back on May the 1st on a subway car in New York City. On May 11th, he was charged by Alvin Bragg without toxicology results. Is that unusual?
Well, no, I don't know that that's unusual. I mean, the question of whether he was intoxicated or not really doesn't go to whether or not the defendant, the charged person, that's Penny, committed homicide.
But
I mean,
Jordan
that
Neely
goes
was on drugs. You know, we saw this with George Floyd. Right, he was on drugs at the time of his death as well.
But the issue is not whether he was on drugs, but whether or not it was reasonable for Penny to have believed that he was going to hurt other people, that his necessary use of force was that kind of use of force, or whether a reasonable person in his place would have thought the same thing. Those are the operative questions, not whether or not he was on drugs. He could have been on drugs and not been acting in a way where a reasonable person would have thought that degree of physical violence was necessary.
Ameer, tagging off of that, I'm also wondering, and we here at the desk, we're also wondering this, so I'm sure our viewers are as well. I've taken quite a few self-defense classes, and something that they always teach you is you need to give a verbal warning before you proceed with any sort of physical restraint or fighting back. Do we know in this case, have you heard anything? Did he give a verbal warning? Is this something that will be brought up during the trial potentially?
So I haven't heard any evidence about that. I don't know that that's necessary in order, if you feel that your life is in jeopardy or somebody else's life is in jeopardy, and you act in self-defense of yourself or others, it might be wise and prudent to give a verbal warning. But I don't know necessarily under the law that that's required. But I haven't heard facts either way, and that's why it's so important that they have a full airing of the facts, and that Penny have an opportunity to put his side of the story. And remember, a grand jury indictment is an allegation, and it's a prosecutorial allegation. So you've heard only one side. You haven't had a chance yet a jury hasn't had a chance to hear both sides of the evidence and to weigh the credibility and to make a decision as to what really happened.
Yeah, and Penny, former Marine, by the way, certainly knows how to handle himself. If he's convicted on second-degree manslaughter charges, that means up to 15 years in prison. Let's take a listen to Penny defending himself in a video that his team put together. Take a look.
The three main threats that he repeated over and over was, I'm going to kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die. I was scared for myself, but I looked around, I saw women and children. He was yelling in their faces, saying these threats. I couldn't just sit still. Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops is only a couple minutes.
Presents himself very well, by the way. Ameer, just about 15 seconds. Do you think this does end up going to trial, or do you think we see a plea at some point over the next few months?
I think it goes to trial. Look, they have to prove that he was aware of a risk of death. He knowingly disregarded it. He did so unjustifiably, and that was a gross deviation from what somebody else would do. That's where there's going to be a big issue. First of all, he's going to say it's justified, and second, it was never a gross deviation given the state of affairs in New York, given what Neely was saying he was going to do, his willingness to die and to hurt others. So I think he's got a strong defense. But I don't see that Alvin Bragg's office deciding to roll over on that. I think they're going to take it to the mat.
All right, Ameer Benno, appreciate the breakdown. Thank you.